All right, so tonight we are recording this on Facebook because, as I said before, there's a lot of folks that couldn't make it tonight that wanted to come, but we also have people all over the world that actually are going to be watching this tonight, and at least watching the recording. So we're going to save it here. So if you get good value out of this and you want to refer some other folks to go and watch it, then this is going to be a great resource for you. All of you have your handouts there in front of you. We had a projector failure, so we're going to be using this screen, but this is just for you to kind of go by, but you've got your notes right there, okay? So tonight, a few housekeeping pieces. Next month, we're going to be covering headaches as our focus. So tonight is neck pain, next month it's headaches, and they are very much related. So that's going to be on, we're in August, September 17th at 6:30 p.m. That's a Monday night. So just get that onto your schedules if that's something, if you know somebody that's struggling with that, or for yourselves as well. And remember that all of these workshops, they are not only for people that are struggling with these concerns, but they're for people who never want to get them. Because a lot of our content is about not just healing up from it, but how do you prevent this from ever happening? If we think about neck pain, do you know it's the third reason why most people visit chiropractors? Neck pain is it's the third reason. So it's a very popular item for us to cover in a chiropractic office. And tonight, we're not going to go through all the things that you can learn everywhere else. The internet is full of information about neck pain. I'm sure many of you have researched it yourself. Tonight, we're just going to cover the unique and specific things that I do right here in the office that give me my best results, because I don't want to waste your time, okay? And so we're going to jump right in where let's just think about this whole idea of neck pain. It's not just neck pain. When people talk about neck pain, it's stiffness and achiness, it's restrictions and ranges of motion, it's concerns about degeneration, arthritic changes, it's even things referring into the upper extremity. That's actually the bigness of this picture of neck pain. And we oftentimes will hear people say, you know, oh, don't sweat the small stuff. And sometimes people put neck pain into that category of, oh, it's just a little achiness, maybe I'm just aging, oh, I must have just slept wrong, and they minimize it and they tolerate it. And I want to tell you, there's other things that are small stuff that you don't want to ignore. The Ebola virus, right? A little tiny tick that bites you, right? A bullet is so tiny, right? So there are some things that you don't want to just call small stuff and ignore. There are some things you want to pay attention to, and neck pain is one of those things. So here we go. Here's the thing that is most important tonight that we want to cover, and this is now different from, you know, the past 20 years when I talk about neck pain. A lot of times it's about the car accidents and the sports injuries and the whiplash and the big traumas that you've had. But now we have something happening in our culture that is so important, but it has been completely normalized, and it's the use of screens and devices. Remember, everybody's heard me say sitting is the new smoking? You've heard that one, right? Screens are the new crack, right? So you hear that, right? It's the addiction that we have to the monitor, whether it's in our jobs being forced to use it or all the devices that we use. So if we're sniffing the monitor all day, we're on the keyboard, or then we go home, we're going to relax, and we're on the computer again, surfing the internet, right? Looking at Facebook, and then we've got our devices with us all the time, and we're down like this. They now have a condition that is diagnosable, that is called either text neck, from all the people that were texting, but now it's been broadened to tech neck, okay? How many people here are, you know, using iPhones or smartphones or devices? Okay, not everybody, but look at the hands going up, right? How many people have other members of their family that are using them? How many people feel like we're probably using them way too much? Wave both hands if that's true for you, right? You get that feeling like there's got to be something that's not good about this. And it's true. Your gut instinct is right about that. So we have to be paying attention to this because, again, it's been so normalized that people are not paying attention to it, and yet it's now becoming one of the most significant factors of causing neck pain. And what you're going to learn tonight is it's causing all of the other things that come from neck pain, which we're going to cover. So So it is a real concern. And when we look at tech neck, right, it can lead to chronic neck pain, nerve problems, and even herniated or bulging discs and the degenerative changes that can come from that. So it's a real concern that we want to be paying attention to. All right, now I made some updates in my program, so I want to just make sure I'm not missing any of the important things. Yeah, got it covered. So let's look more closely now at neck problems. So it's the neck pain, it's the stiffness and the tightness that sometimes people feel. And again, that's one that is commonly just normalized. Oh, I just got a little stiff neck, it's okay. And then sometimes people will say, I'm just going to use this muscle relaxant, right? I'm just going to use this little painkiller that makes me feel better. Some people will use over-the-counter things just to get through their day with a little stiffness or tightness. But that lost range of motion, I know that this is happening because I drive out there. I see you guys out on the highway that have that restricted motion, right? You're using the hope and pray lane change because you can't turn your head to look over your shoulder to see if anybody's there. Anybody encounter anybody like that on the highway? They just float over right in front of you, not even looking, right? And it's because they're not actually able to turn their head because they've got that loss of range of motion there, right? So it's affecting not just them, but the people around them, even on the highway. So that lost range of motion, that's an important piece. Then there's people's concerns about degeneration, and they've been told they have arthritis. And when they're told that, usually this is what it sounds like. Oh, it's arthritis. That's the sound of the song that they sing when they're told they have, it's arthritis, right? And the tone is, oh, well, nothing I can do about it. I'll just have to learn to live with it, right? And no one is actually telling them that should be completely preventable, and that no matter what stage it's at, there's a good chance that it can at least be slowed down, if not stopped, and in many cases even reversed. That's what we're doing here in the practice, right? So don't let, I want to tell people, just kick that provider that says, oh, you've just got arthritis. Just kick them, right? Because they're not telling you what's really possible, right? And it just puts you into that category of, nothing I can do about it, right? So take that away. If you hear anybody, any of your friends and family that are saying that, just grab them by the scruff of the neck and bring them right into the office so we can show them what's really possible, okay? Popping and cracking. How many people have, you turn your neck and you hear the popping and the cracking, what is that happening? What's that grinding? What's that grinding sand thing happening, right? That's another part of this. And then, of course, you've all been learning from me, the nerve supply from the neck goes down into the arm. So people that are having wrist and hand, carpal tunnel, tennis elbow, shoulder problems, sometimes that's coming from the neck. Numbness and tingling, loss of grip strength, those are all some of the things that we see. I remember distinctly this one day, and this is many, many times this has happened, but this one woman came in and she's showing me, I can't close my hand. There's so much arthritis in my hand, right? And then we adjust her neck. And within a couple of visits, she's saying, look, Dr. Heather, look. And she's showing me how she can close her wrist. We didn't adjust her hand at all. We just helped clear that nerve interference from the neck, right? And then headaches, again, that goes both directions, down into the extremities or up into the head. And we're going to cover headaches next month, all right? So that's the bigness of this problem. Now, all of these things are symptoms and what we like to call body signals. That's why this is a body signals series that we're doing every month. So body signals are something that are a sign or it's a symptom, it's something you're feeling or noticing that your body is communicating with you. Your body is intelligent, and it's communicating with you. The question is, are you listening? And do you know what it's saying? What is it communicating to you? Or are you in the category of people that are just trying to stop that message? Like, it doesn't feel good, I just want it to stop. And so commonly, again, drugs and medications are ways to stop feeling that. I had heard a great analogy from a colleague just this week. He said, it's kind of like if you got a house and there's smoke coming out of the house. As if there's a fire and there's smoke coming out of the house and you want to stop that problem. You just don't want that to be happening. And so what do? You go and shut the windows of the house. And now, no more smoke coming out of that house, right? Okay, that's what using medications such as anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxants, that's what it's doing. It's stopping you from feeling it. Because what does a drug do? It turns off the perception of the pain, the painkiller, in your brain. It's not stopping the cause of that. It's just stopping you from feeling it. It's like shutting the windows on that house so the smoke's not coming out. So tonight we want to give you all the strategies of what you can do to get to the cause of it, to just put that fire out, right? So I'm going to refer back to this analogy a little bit later as well. Body signals are your body's communication. It's your smart body communicating with you. So if you're listening and you understand what it's saying, then you can take the right steps to address it. It's your body screaming out at you, right? Ever been in a crowd and there's this little kid tugging on mom's shirt, mom, 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 right? And starts screaming, right? That's your body. You can listen to the whispers and take action, or you can wait until your body's screaming at you before you do something about it, okay? So we want you to understand body signals and know how to listen to that, because then you're going to be getting to what the cause is, right? And if the pain goes away then, it's because you've stopped the cause of it, all right? Makes sense. So one of the problems I think that happens in our culture as far as body signals go is people are misinterpreting the signs that their bodies are giving them. And so oftentimes they are thinking that, well, if I don't feel anything, then I must be healthy, right? Ever you heard that one, right? Oh, and if I feel neck pain, oh, now I have a problem because today I have the neck pain. Yesterday I didn't, and today I do. So today I have a problem, but yesterday I didn't, right? How many times have we heard that, right? So we have to look more closely at how people are defining that idea of I'm healthy or I'm not healthy. Because oftentimes they're using the word how I feel as though that is the way to define if you're healthy or not. So let's take a look at this. This is going to be a review for some of you, but it's so important. It's such an important concept. So this is the illness-wellness paradigm. It's the illness-wellness continuum. So it is a range. At one end, we have premature death, right? Death is at one end. Robust health is at the other end. In the middle, we have no symptoms, so not sick, but not necessarily healthy, right? And not nameable as a sickness, so not dead yet, but not necessarily at that highest level of function. On this range, and this is from a gold standard study that came out, that was repeated 3 times in 1972, in the late 80s, and again in 2004. Here's what they learned from this continuum. When they plotted a lot of people, a huge population of people, they found that everybody was somewhere on this continuum. When they looked at it, they found, again, some people that were close to death, some people that were kind of not sick, and then some people that were healthy. What they discovered is the people that were not sick, a lot of them were calling that healthy, right? Because they were basing it on what they feel. Well, I don't feel like I have a symptom, so I guess I'm healthy today. And then tomorrow, now I've got a symptom, right? And so what they found is that as people went from that neutral point, which we would call false wellness, as their function deteriorated, then they would start to get signs, and then they would get symptoms. Who knows what the difference is between a sign and a symptom? What is a sign? Who knows? Not necessarily. Yes, a sign is something you measure. Okay. Yeah, so you're on the right track, yeah. So, blood pressure, you can't feel if your blood pressure is high or low, but that's something you can measure, right? Your temperature, you might feel you have a fever or not. That's something you can measure, right? So what you can measure is a sign, but it's not always what you can feel. Then, so signs were the first thing that showed up. Symptoms came after the sign, all right? So if you went to a dentist and they looked in your mouth and they saw signs of a cavity, you might not feel that cavity, right? If you wait until you feel it and then go to the dentist, are you in big trouble or huge trouble, right? So oftentimes the symptoms are going to follow the signs for the most part. So as we're losing function, signs can show up first and then symptoms start to show up, right? And by that time, it may already be advanced. I'm pointing that out because neck pain is in that category. Neck pain is like a cavity. By the time that neck pain is showing up, you may already have a lot of disturbance happening in your neck, okay? If that progresses and it gets worse and worse so that you can't correct the symptom anymore, now you're in a disability state. And I have people coming in to see me that have been tolerating neck pain for decades, and now they're finally looking for help because now they can't move their arm. And I look at their spine, and I'm seeing a lot of degenerative change that would have been completely preventable, right? And in some cases, some people are in a disabled state, like we're never going to recover that full function that they could have had. We're going to help them as much as we can, but we may not be able to recover the full function. So that's the progression down into death. On the other side of it, the first step moving towards robust health, they found out it was awareness. People had to be aware that there was something beyond just not being sick, right? The next level was education. They had to be educated to live their life differently than the way our culture was programming them to live. And finally, there was growth because they had to grow into it. And there had to be some momentum pushing them, that they had to muster up that momentum to keep growing and pushing into that robust level of health. So that was the other thing they recognized, is that everybody was going to be somewhere on this continuum, and nobody would be standing still. Everybody was going to move in one direction or the other. And there was going to be a velocity to how fast they were moving in either direction as well. And that was going to be directly related to their lifestyle habits. Did they have a lot of good habits in their life and they were moving in the right direction, or did they have a lot of bad habits and they're moving fast in the wrong direction? So with that velocity comes momentum. And so sometimes as your healthcare provider, the very first thing I have to accomplish is I have to just slow down the momentum of where you're headed before we can turn the corner and start moving back up the tubes again. Does that make sense? And so people are going to be moving in either direction at any moment, and they may be moving fast or slow. So somebody that has a pretty high level of function and health and has a lot of good habits, and then they get an injury, right? That injury will set them back, and they may move in that direction, and then suddenly they start to recover, and they're moving fast back in that other direction again. And then there's that little old lady from Pasadena that has been eating terrible food and been sedentary and, you know, and is decrepit, right? And there's a lot of momentum moving her in the wrong direction. It's going to take some time. So everybody heals at a different rate, and everybody's going to be somewhere on this continuum, always moving in one direction or the other. So that's what you want to be asking yourself right now is, where am I and which direction am I heading? Okay? All right, and remember, the symptoms are often going to tell you which direction you're heading. So that athlete that's in great shape and lots of good protocols, under good chiropractic care, doing all the right things, and then they get injured, the injury, the symptoms are telling them, whoa, you've had a setback here. And they're moving in the wrong direction. And then they do all the right things, they start to heal, and the symptoms start to improve, and they're moving in the right direction. Do you see what that means? So that's how you listen to the body signals, is paying attention. The symptoms, the signals are telling you which direction you may be headed. Okay? Now, another piece, if we can take it just to another level of understanding, oftentimes when the symptoms show up, it's because in some way you've increased inflammation in your life. And when there's an increase in inflammation, there's going to be an increase in symptoms. My neck pain is worse, and the numbness in my arm is worse. Oh, what's been going on? Oh, yeah, I was on vacation and I wasn't eating so well and I was sedentary. Okay, so you were doing things that were increasing inflammation. And then you get back on track and you come in, oh, I'm feeling better, my arm's feeling better, my neck's feeling looser. What have you been doing? Oh, I've been eating better, I've been getting adjusted, taking the pressure off my nerves, and I've been starting to move my body, I've been doing my sleep molding exercises, so you're all doing all the things that drop inflammation. So anytime you're seeing a flare-up of symptoms, you want to start asking yourself, what has my behavior been doing? Because your behavior is going to determine your outcomes. And the reason that is because your behavior is based on your beliefs. Your beliefs will determine what your choices are going to be, and that will determine your outcomes. Do you see that link?
Repeat that again?
Yeah, I will, because it's an important one. So people want a good outcome, but they want to keep living their life the same way, doing the same habits. And why are they even doing those habits? Because they have some belief that it's okay, that they're going to get away with it, right? Because the commercial on TV tells them that this cereal is healthy for them, right? And this canola oil and the sugar is healthy for them, right? Right? So their belief is that it's okay. We have to change what the belief is if we're going to change what that bad habit is and turn it into a good habit, which is then going to make good outcomes. So that's why we're going to go into detail tonight, because it's going to help to shift your beliefs about the choices that you're making. Does that make sense? See, I can't just tell you, start doing that and stop doing that. Because if you think, well, it's probably not that important, like, oh, it's just a little neck pain, I can tolerate that. I can take some Advil and I'm feeling okay. If you believe that it's all just about the neck pain going away, then you'll think you're on the right track. But if you knew that taking the Advil was closing the windows on the house that's on fire, and all that fire is still happening, but you just can't feel it, right? Now your belief about it is going to change. Now you're going to start to look for some different answers. Okay, does that help? Okay. So, if you think it's all about how you feel, let's actually look at what the science tells us about what you feel in your body. What you feel is part of your nervous system's job, and it's the sensory nervous system sending information to the brain. So if you put your hand on a surface, you can feel it. That's signaling going to your brain, telling you it's there. If this was a stove that was turned on high and I touched it, pretty quickly I'd be going, oh, right? Pain, heat, right? That feeling was going through my nervous system telling me what to do. So the sensory nervous system is what you feel, right? And then your function, moving your body and running your organs, that's coming out from the brain. So sensory comes into the brain and function comes out from the brain. So when I'm touching this, I feel it's hot, and the function says, take your hand away, right? So that's using both directions of the nervous system. So there are 3 parts to the central nervous system. The motor nerves are what run the muscles. The autonomic nerves are what run the organs. The sensory nerves are what you feel. And when we look at motor nerves, that's all about running the muscles. So if you have a loss of function in the motor nervous system, in the muscle function, we're going to see weakness or spasms, fatigue, tightness in the muscles. That's how that's going to show up. So if you're thinking about body signals and you're noticing weakness, that sort of thing, or spasms, right? It's because the nerve supply to the muscle may be being affected. The autonomic nerves are organ functions. So if you have sinus trouble, allergies, you have low energy, digestive problems, breathing problems, right? You have all the different organ functions. That's the autonomic system. So if something's going wrong there, it may be that the autonomic nervous system has some interference to it, right? Elaine loves it when I make a contact right on her neck, because all of a sudden she starts to breathe better, right?
Every time.
That's because it's helping to release that autonomic nervous system. That leaves the sensory nerves. The sensory nerves are what we feel. So it's pain, hot, cold, and it's also position, posture. So if our posture is like this and we're not noticing it, there could be some disturbance in the brain tracking where our body is in space. If we go upright, that's a healthier posture. So if that's a healthier posture, why wouldn't we be doing this all the time, right? Tech neck compromises our posture, which puts pressure on the nerves, which then distorts the information going to the brain, and then we get stuck in that pattern. And we think, I think my posture is pretty good, actually, right? And we're looking saying, I'm not sure about that, right? I feel like I'm upright, right? That's because what their body wants to do is this, and they're doing this, right? So proprioception or posture comes from the sensory nervous system. And so if we have problems with our posture, we better be looking at proprioception and the sensory nervous system. Now, the important thing to know is if you look at all 3 of these parts of the nervous system, the sensory nervous system is that perceives pain is only 10% of the nervous system's jobs. The rest of all that function, 90%, is not about what you feel. So if you're only basing, I'm healthy today because I feel good, and tomorrow I'm not feeling so good, oh, now I'm sick, right? Was it just a day that it changed? Oh, now is when I feel sick. Now is when I feel healthy. If that's what you're using, then you're going to be in trouble. This is not a new concept either. Like pretty much every chronic illness that we can think of, from heart disease, right? What does it feel like to have heart disease? Yeah. Do you know what the most common symptom is for heart disease? No symptom. Do you know what the most common symptom for cancer is? No symptom. right? What is the most common first symptom that we feel and notice with heart disease?
Pain in the chest.
Yeah, having a heart attack. You're actually having that heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that more often than not, that first heart attack is your last one because it'll kill you. More often than not, the very first symptom of heart disease will kill you, right? Do we want to be using how we feel as the way to determine how healthy we are, right? In pretty much every single category, including things as mundane as cavities, right? It's the same thing. If you're waiting until you feel it, you're already in trouble, right? It makes sense, right? So let's not just put that neck pain off into a different category. It's in the same category. And if you are starting to feel neck pain, please pay attention to it because it could be an indicator of something much worse happening. Don't just look for ways to tolerate it because you're setting yourself up for something that could be affecting your health. So it's not just a neck problem, it's a health problem, right? If there's no other takeaway that you get from tonight, it's to look at neck pain as not just a neck problem, it could be a health problem. Yeah. All right, so now let's dive into this. There's certain premises that we have to start from so that everything else makes sense. And so the first premise is that we can't use how you feel as a definition of health. So healthy is normal. That's the first premise I want to start with. Healthy is normal because all those commercials out there that just say, oh, it's just a common headache or common neck pain, right? It's actually programming people to think that it's normal, it's common to be sick. And that is a lie, right? Our bodies were designed to be healthy. Healthy is normal. That's the first premise. Why is it normal? Because our body is smart. Is our body smart or stupid? Our body is smart, right? We all agree with that. We've talked about it a lot, haven't we? Yeah. Our body is smart. You have innate intelligence in every single cell in your body. That's what keeps you healthy and healing, right? So if your body is smart, let's make sure we keep treating it as though it's smart. Let's not make those exceptions of, oh, but right now it's not smart because I have neck pain, so I'm just going to take this drug because my body doesn't know what it's doing right now, and this drug is smarter and it's going to help, right? Let's just not go in that direction. If we're going to work from these premises of how you're going to get the health that you want, we have to be on board with that. So your body is smart. Your nervous system is the master system. It's running every other system in the body. Your spine is your suit of armor. So your spine is that whole system where you have the spinal cord sending the messages down and out through the nerve roots to feed every part of your body. That's what keeps you healthy and healing, controlling every system in the body. Then you have the spinal column that is protecting that spinal cord. That's your suit of armor. You've got the skull to protect the brain, and you've got the suit of armor of the spinal column to protect the spinal cord. It's a whole series of joints, and those joints are separated by the disc, which acts as the spacer between the bones so that it creates room for the nerve to come out. And we know that it's working as a series of joints. And the reason we have the joints is because not only is it going to be protecting the cord, but it's going to be allowing for motion, right? So you can turn your head when you're changing lanes and protect everybody else on the highway with you, right? Motion is part of the brilliant design of the spine. It protects you and it allows movement. So we're going to come back to this when we look at the lots of specificity here around neck pain. All right? And so your spine is your suit of armor. When we are under stress, that's what can put pressure on our bones and our joints and our muscles and our nervous system and create subluxations, which we're going to talk about. So modern life is unnaturally stressful. Anybody here disagree with me on that? Right? Are we living in a stressful world? Are we? Yeah. Is this year, has it been more stressful than last year? And next year, might it be more? I mean, even if you love your life, it's more stressful these days, right? I'm in that category. I love my life, but it's more stressful. So we have to be proactive about it. We have to recognize it, right? And the devices that we have that are supposed to bring all kinds of convenience and ease, it's one of the things that's also paradoxically adding more stress to us. All right, so everybody agrees with that. All right, so of these stresses, remember there are 3 categories of these stresses. It's the thoughts, the emotional mental stress. It's the toxins that we're being bombarded with more than ever before in history. And it's the traumas. And those traumas come in different forms. There are macro traumas and micro traumas. So the macro traumas, like falling down the stairs, like whiplash accidents, like sports injuries, right? Those are all examples of the macro big traumas that we may have had. And if those can create jarring to the spine and set up patterns in the nervous system and subluxate you, but there are other things that can be related as well. Micro traumas. And I would say that the vast majority of people, their neck pain is actually coming more from bad habits, micro traumas, postural habits, than anything else. So when we look at micro traumas, look at what we're looking at, right? We used to think of micro traumas as repetitive stress injuries. I'm using the mouse too much, right? But nobody is actually thinking of text neck or tech neck as a repetitive injury. And actually, it is in that category. It's something that we're doing repeatedly that is bad posture for us. And it's actually causing more problems than the macro traumas now these days. So you could have a macro trauma, and then you couple that with bad habits and life happening, and that's how you have persistent subluxation patterns, nerve interference patterns. That's how you get chronic concerns, right? So that's the micro traumas. And remember, it's not just the screens. It's reading a book. It's knitting. It's eating. It's all the things that we're doing. It's not just the devices. It's all those things that put us into those bad habit postures. For some people, their jobs will include that. So it might be a sitting job, or it might be a job that you're active at, but you're bent over a lot, right? So we want to pay attention to all of those micro traumas. Whoops. All right, and so what happens when we have this situation where we're chronically putting the neck forward? Let's do some physics here. All right, so when we look at this, what we see is this 12-pound head, 15 to 12 pounds, roughly, most people's heads are. Every inch that it goes forward, it actually will increase by newtons, that's the term in physics, the stress on the neck. And it will increase that 12-pound head that if it's balanced right up over your center of gravity. Now, you guys know what good posture is, right? Everybody here knows when they look at good posture what it is. And you know what it is. It's the head over the shoulder over the pelvis over the ankles. That's good posture, right? You know if I'm standing like this, it's different from me standing like this. Everybody can recognize that, right? So based on the laws of physics, the reason why we identify this as good posture is there's ease here because that bowling ball of a head is being balanced up over your center of gravity. When that head goes forward, now you're in trouble, right? So I want you to, can I get a volunteer to come up and help me with something? Anybody? Anybody? Would you come up, Peter? Okay. All right. So Peter, I want you to just stand facing this direction right here, right? And so Peter, I'm going to have you just hold your hands up over your head, right? So if I put weight on him, right? And so I'm putting about 12 to 15 pounds of weight. If we stay right up tall with him, he could probably bear that weight. If I gave him $10, he could probably do it half an hour or so, right? If we lock up the elbows and lock up the shoulders, right? But if now I say we're going to just move this forward and put the same amount of weight, now I could give him $100 and he couldn't do it for 10 minutes, right? Because it's so much more stress, but it might be the same amount of weight, right? Thank you for demonstrating that, right? So do you understand that? That's the laws of physics, that if our head goes forward, it's going to be putting so much more stress on our neck. Now, when we get that stress on our neck, it's now going to put pressure on the bones and the joints. And that can start to put pressure on the discs, which can start to damage tissue, cause misalignments, and then we start to affect the nervous system, and now we start to get strapping down and spasming happening. It's a whole etiology, it's a whole cascade of events that happens, and it starts from that improper posture. So right now, today, can we all agree that we're going to pay much more attention to our posture, where our head is in space, because that's going to be the first piece, that's going to be the rule, the first piece of moving in the right direction. That we have to be paying more attention to that. So let's look more closely at subluxations. So when there is that abnormal pressure, whether it's from a jolt from a whiplash accident or from that chronic bad habits that creates the misalignments, it's going to have that joint misalignment, which creates soft tissue damage. Just like if you misalign your ankle and you get soft tissue damage in a sprained ankle, the same thing is happening in your spine. That soft tissue damage then starts to create inflammation and nerve irritation and starts to put pressure and stress and tension on the nervous system. So one of the things we're always watching for here in the practice is what's the tone in your nervous system? Is there tension in the nervous system or ease? And if there's tension, we want to be paying attention because it's a sign. It may not be something you feel, but it's a sign that I'm going to be watching and measuring. So that inflammation creates nerve irritation. When you get the nerve irritation, now you have a joint. If it's irritated, your body is smart. It wants to protect it. So those muscles, if they kept moving that joint all around and you've got that inflammation in there, it's going to put more and more damage to that tissue. So what is your smart body going to do with the muscles? Instead of those muscles moving that joint, they go to their second job, which is to strap that joint down. Strap it down and stop it from moving so you can stop the damage to the nerve irritation, right? So you can stop that. When we stop that, right, that you might notice if that's happening to you, I've got stiffness in my neck. I got some spasms in my neck. Oh, my body's smart, but right now I got to do something about this. And then you take the muscle relaxant. Oh, my muscles are all relaxed now, so I can keep moving. Only, the pain seems to be getting worse. I can move it, but the pain is worse. I better take a painkiller, right? What's happening to this house here? We're closing up the windows, right? And now we're just feeding the fire, right? We're doing more damage, feeling and not feeling it. We're feeling good while we're doing more damage. Do you see what happens? So your smart body, if it's got a muscle spasm, there's a reason for it. So let's let it have that muscle spasm as long as it needs it. And then when it frees up, when the system gets healthier and the brain says, oh, now it's healthier in there, there's no more inflammation, there's no more irritation. Oh, I got that range of motion back now. It's because the body doesn't have to protect it by strapping it down anymore. Now, when there is a muscle spasm, what happens is the discs in between the bones, the only way they get fluid and oxygen and nutrients into them is if we squeeze them like a sponge and unsqueeze them. When we squeeze it and unsqueeze it, that motion in the disc is what sucks nutrients and oxygen in and squeezes toxins out. That's how the disc is fed and how it cleans itself, is through motion. So when we strap that joint down, we stop the motion, we lose that what's called imbibition, which is that sucking of nutrients in and pushing toxins out. We lose that. If we lose that imbibition in the disc, that disc is now going to start to break down. It doesn't have the nutrients and the oxygen to rebuild itself from any damage, and it's not getting any toxins out. So the disc will start to break down, and as the disc breaks down, it creates even more inflammation. And now the brain says, we're just going to fix that joint, fixate that joint. When I say fix it, what I mean is joint fixation, right? Fixation means it straps it down, the disc deteriorates, and now what happens to a hinge if you don't use it? Rusts up. So now that joint is starting to rust up. When you get that joint fixation and inflammation, that starts to send signaling to the brain, and the brain says, oh no, this is not right. This is a stressful scenario. We need to watch out. And that aberrant motion sends stress signaling to the brain, and the brain goes into a stress response in the body. A whole stress response in the body. Now, we know that when there's a stress response in the body, what are the things that happen? If a tiger was chasing you, what are the things your body would want to do in order to save your life? Your blood pressure would go up so that you can pump that blood out to your muscles. Your heart rate's going to go up, again, to pump the blood out. Your muscle tone increases. You get more tense so that you can start powering through. Your digestion is going to shut down. Now is not a good time to spend energy on digestion, right? You want all that blood out of the stomach and into the muscles. right? Digestion shuts down. Not a good time to make babies. Reproduction's going to shut down. Serotonin levels, not a good time to sleep, right? So serotonin levels go down. The feel-good hormones, they go down because now's the time to fight a tiger, not the time to sleep. Sensory systems, alert, focused, tunnel vision, got to get away. Fear and anxiety, an appropriate response, right? That's in a heightened state when you're in a stress response. Insulin sensitivity actually is going to change because we want to get more sugar into the blood to get it to the muscles faster. Blood sugar is going to go up because of that. Our HDLs and our LDLs are going to flip because that's actually fuel that our body can use as well. Cholesterol is going to go up. Why is that? Do you know what cholesterol is for? It's for tissue repair. So it's already preparing for if that tiger does get to you and wounds you, we've already got the cholesterol ready to start repairing that tissue. And that's why our clotting factors will go up as well. And our immune response, whoa, the immune system, it's an expensive system to run. And so we will downregulate the immune system, cough, cough, because we want to preserve all of our resources for fighting that tiger. All right? So what does this look like? If it's really a tiger chasing us, it looks like a way to save our life. But it was only designed for something that you could eventually get away from. You get away from the tiger. Now you go back to ease and normal function. This is adaptive physiology that was meant to be reserved for just when the tiger's chasing you. It was never intended for an ongoing chronic state. If this is happening chronically, doesn't this look something like a heart attack happening, right? Doesn't this look like heart disease happening, diabetes happening, obesity happening, right? Immune system's downregulated, right? We want that immune system to be up and running. When the tiger's chasing you, your body's basically saying, yeah, we're going to need that later, but not right now, right? And so now we see how it's linked to cancer and all kinds of chronic illnesses, autoimmune, right? Do you see how all of this leads to that? So if you have neck pain, let's connect the dots here, right? Your body is actually being put into a stress physiology because of neck pain. So it's not something you want to just tolerate because you'll notice that things are going to get worse with other conditions. Oh, when the neck pain's here, oh, my blood pressure's worse. Oh, my blood sugar's not so good. It's because your body's being put into that inflammatory state because it's being put into a stress physiology. So when you have subluxations, you have all of these things happening. The nerve irritation is the key thing because when the nerve gets irritated, now it starts to distort the messaging going back and forth, and it starts to send the stress signaling to the brain. And that's going to elevate our stress hormones in our body. And as those hormones are elevated and stay elevated, that sets us up for all these other chronic illnesses to occur. Okay, so we don't want to minimize neck pain at all. Again, remember, only 10% of the nervous system is about what you feel. The other 90% is running the function for all those organs and all those muscles. So let's now look at nerve supply. And I want to look a little bit more closely at this because I want you to see how these things are all related. We look at the nerves coming out from the spine like we look at a fuse box, right? So we know that you have your central nervous system, which is sending messages through the peripheral nervous system that is now controlling all of the organ systems, every organ system. So if there is any disturbance in the flow of messages, we know what rooms these wires are going to, right? So if you go home, Elaine, if you went home and one room of your house, all the electricity was out, like the lamps were not working, the appliances were not working, would you go into that room and start checking every light bulb?
No, you go to the fuse
You go
box.
right to the basement to the fuse box, right? So that's what chiropractors are going to do. They're going to go right to the fuse box to see what's affecting function in this system that's gone sideways. And so we know what this map of the nervous system is. So we know if you have disturbance in the neck, we know where those nerves are going. So we know that neck pain and discomfort, that's the signal that got you to come into the office. When we check that, we know, oh, that's the nerve that's going to your hand. And I'll ask, so you have any loss of grip strength? I don't think so. And then we test it, and it's weak. And they hadn't even noticed it, right? Or, oh, do you have any trouble with digestion or your energy, you get low energy? That's because I know this map of the nervous system is controlling those things as well. So looking at the map of the nervous system is key to understanding the significance of the neck pain. And so that's why not only do people that have neck pain have trouble with joint misalignment, soft tissue damage, inflammation, nerve irritation, muscle spasms and pain, the lost inhibition in the disc, the joint fixation, but also arthritis can start to show up. That's that rusting up of the joints that happens. And then we can start to see trouble with shoulder, arm, and elbow, wrist, carpal tunnel, hand problems because the nerve supply is coming right out of the neck to control those areas. So upper extremity issues, which we covered a couple of months ago, right? We saw that the nerve supply from the neck was what was in charge of running those parts of the body. So if you have subluxations, right, it's impacting the nerves here. And one of the things that we always look at is what's happening in the integrity of the spine, the alignment of the spine. We want to see that if you notice in an upright posture where the head is over the shoulder, we're going to find that there's a forward curve in the neck, a little slight forward curve. That forward curve creates spring in the spine. The spring in the spine is what's protecting those discs, right? If we lose that curve, now we're getting jamming happening. And that's what then starts to deteriorate the discs. And the bones have to now grow spurs because of all that jamming that's happening. It's trying to protect you. So when we look at the spine, when a newborn is born, they have one big C shape to their spine. But as soon as they start to get on the ground on their belly, they start to pick their head up. And what are they doing? Creating this forward curve in the neck. And then they get on their bellies and they drop their belly down and start to move around, and they're developing that curve in the lumbar spine. So we want to have these curves in our spine because they are creating the spring in the spine. So that is key for neck. A healthy neck is to have a healthy curve in the spine, in the neck. And it should be a healthy forward curve. And if we lose that curve, and now we start to get the jamming, or in some cases we have people where the curve is reversed, we're getting that jamming, and we can see it starts to lead to degenerative change right in that area. Now I want to just pull out my my vertebrae here that show, just going to come right behind you here, show the levels of degenerative change that can happen. So we have the healthy joint, and then we have, I'm going to do it this way here, we have the healthy joint, and then we have a disc that's being compromised, and then we see the degenerative change that comes from that. And then we see how it can play out and get worse and worse and worse. So I'm going to pass these around. This one, you guys can take a look at them. Okay. So that's what I want you to see, because that nerve irritation and interference is your body's innate ability to heal and remain healthy. But if you have degenerative change that's starting to happen, then that can affect the nerves as well. So what do we need to do about that? Well, first recognize these nerves here come out of the neck. C1 through C7, there are 7 vertebrae in the neck. That's what that stands for. C is for cervical or neck. C1 through C7 are the nerves that come out, and they go to the organs of the head, the throat, this area, even some down into the stomach and the liver. The vagus nerve comes right out of the top of the spine here. That's in charge of all of the organs down to the large intestine. But now what we're finding is neck pain oftentimes can be related to the upper back now as well. And so the upper back, what are we talking about with the upper back? Watch this, watch now, tech neck. It's not just the neck, is it? It's the upper back, yeah. So T1 through 5, we're going to look closely at this area as well when people are complaining of neck pain, shoulder pain, that kind of thing, right? And this area, T1 through T5, what's it in charge of? The heart, the lungs, the stomach, the gallbladder, right? Your upper digestion, the hiatal area, the sphincter. This one was this one doesn't want to stay, so it falls often. But that's the healthy one. How does it stay healthy if it keeps falling? It's because I'm adjusting it all the time. All right, so this is what you want to remember, is that we're looking at the whole upper back when we're talking about neck pain. And remember, what happens is that translation of the head forward that puts all that pressure even into the upper back as well. And again, what do the nerves coming out of the upper back go to? The heart, the lungs, digestion. How many people, don't we see an enormous increase in digestive complaints happening, right? The GERD that's happening, right? The gastroesophageal reflux, heartburn. Don't we see a huge increase in that, along with that increase in tech neck? Yeah, because it's postural. A lot of the times it's postural. And then we see it affecting people's sleep because they got so much tension and stress that they just can't get comfortable and they just can't get a good deep sleep. Maybe neck pain bothers them and that wakes them up, but oftentimes, oh, my neck feels better, but I'm just not sleeping well. When we start to correct that area, I'm sleeping like Dracula, doc, I'm so deep now, right? And that's what we find, is that it's related to getting that whole area of the upper back and neck healthier. So when we look at the degrees, right, 45 degrees forward, right, is what we might see. 60 degrees, 75 degrees, right? Oh, now 0 pounds of weight, right? It goes 45 degrees, 49 pounds, 60 degrees, 60 pounds, 75 degrees, 70 pounds. Yeah, your head falls off, right? No more weight there, right? Yeah. Okay, so you get this, right? You get this. And how many people do you know that are just have fallen right into that trap? Almost everybody you know, right? Almost everybody. So I want to tell you what is possible here. And so this is just one of many stories, but I want to share it because this woman, when she came in, she was suffering from brain fog and chronic fatigue and upper back and neck pain. She felt like she was twice her age, is what she says, right? That's a very common picture to show up, right? Then she said she was going downhill. It had been going on for about 4 years. Don't we find people just tolerating neck pain, right? Oh, it's been going on for about 4 years, right? And she was losing hope. She had gone to several doctors, even a couple of different types of chiropractors, not getting relief. Then after just a few visits, she already started to feel the fog lifted. She was able to think more clearly. She was able to get through her day without a nap, right? And the pain lessened a lot, and then each week she was feeling better and getting better and better. And so now she's been under care for many years now. And we've seen her go through all the different, weather through all the different storms, but she followed all the recommendations. She remolded her spine the way she needed to. So how did she get these results? What did she do? What would it take? First of all, tech neck was the thing we have to be aware of, right? That bad habits. You have to be aware of the bad habits that happen, and that all these neck problems, all these different things can show up. We've already talked about all these things that can happen. How do we correct it? So it's a 3-legged stool, right? Anybody ever tried to sit on a 2-legged stool? Pretty unstable, but you need all 3 legs to it, right? So first off, we just need to start breaking the bad habits, and the tech neck one is the first one I want to see go. If you're using your device, I want it up in front of you. You're going to build upper arm strength by holding it up in front of you, right? I want it up. That's the easiest change, is up in front of you. If it's a desktop, you want to change it to a standing desk where that monitor is up in front of you. And if you're using a laptop, you have to be very careful with the laptops, because if it's in your lap, you're looking down. So really, you want to bring it up. Many people, that laptop is what they have, they're going to elevate it and they're going to invest in a separate keyboard. So the keyboard is ergonomically in the right place, but the screen is up higher, okay? That's a investment well worth it, right? You can get desks that are called Very desks, where you can go from sitting to standing at that desk, right? It's a good investment, right? Because you have to stop the bad habits that keep recreating the subluxations, and posture is one of the biggest ones. So that's what we're going to teach people, is what are their bad habits that need to change, and that's one of the most important ones. And then we're going to add specific exercises, because we need to start strengthening all these muscles that have gotten so weak. They need to start holding you up again. So we need to do spinal exercises. I'm going to show you a really good one tonight that's great for the neck. Another category of exercise is the remolding exercises. So we teach all of you how to remold that cervical curve. Camping, we found a new role for the noodle, the swimming noodle. When it breaks, you can use it to remold the curves in your spine, putting underneath. It's not ideal, but it's actually not a bad idea. It's something that you can use. So I teach you how to roll up the towels. I've also shown you how to use a really good pillow. And so I'm going to show you that in just a minute. I'm going to show you why that's such a good pillow. So adding the exercises and then chiropractic adjustments. And those adjustments, they need to happen in a rhythm because that's how I get my best results. But watch, every day when you go out there, we've got our whole culture that is engineered to keep pushing us into the bad habits. And that's why the frequency is so important. So the frequency is going to be determined on two things: what my findings are and what your goals are. And then your progress is going to be monitored on how well you're holding your adjustment. And the thing that will determine how well you hold your adjustment is if you're breaking the bad habits and you're doing the exercises and you're coming consistently for your care. That's how you get healthier and healthier, and you hold your adjustments longer and longer. All right, and so again, tech neck, it can lead to chronic neck pain, nerve problems, and even herniated or bulging discs. So this is the very first bad habit that needs to change, is you need to stop having that poor posture with your devices. It's one of the biggest changes that you can make that'll cover ground the most. And so the pillow. So this pillow, I used to teach you that you had to remold your spine for 20 minutes and then go to bed. With proper pillow, you can do your remolding right on the pillow. So the way this pillow is designed is when you put your head on the pillow, there's a indentation, and then it has these two cores on either side. So you can see it, one here, one here. I don't think they're swimming noodles. I think they're more sophisticated than that. In fact, I think they're memory foam. I think it's very sophisticated, and it provides the support that you need. They've actually taken x-rays of people laying on this pillow versus a conventional pillow. You can see how their curve reverses with the conventional pillow, but with the proper pillow, you can see that beautiful curve being restored. So this is an easy way now to start remolding your spine, is you just do your twisting exercises before you go to sleep. That makes the discs more malleable, and then you lie right on the pillow and just go right to sleep. And the way it's designed also, when you lie on your side, you can, it's built up on the sides so that it actually keeps your spine in alignment when you're on your side. If you don't have the right pillow, it can either be too little pillow or too much pillow, and otherwise you want it to be keeping your spine straight when you're on your side.
For a side sleeper, though, should you try to do back?
You want to, you want to do your first 20 minutes on your back,
Right.
and then you can turn on to your side. Yeah, and you can do that very safely and healthfully. Yeah, you can do it that way. All right, so I wanted to cover a little bit more here about nutrition, because I do find that we can cover ground a lot faster if we're looking at that. So remember, we talked about the house with the smoke coming out and, trying to just close the windows, right? We want to make sure that we're not feeding the fire inside. And so we talked about how inflammation is a key, it's a key piece that's going parallel with neck pain. If you have neck pain, it means you're going to have inflammation happening. And so we want to do everything we can to drop the inflammation. Now, one of the reasons why we have so much inflammation in our culture right now is because there are certain omega-3 fatty acids that drop inflammation and keep it under control in our body. And it's a ratio that we're looking for. So there's an omega-3 and an omega-6. These are both essential fatty acids. We need to get them both into our bodies so our body will function right. Our cell membranes require the omega-3s in order to make them. We require healthy fats to make our cell membranes. Our nervous system is made a lot of fat. Our hormones are made of fat. So we need fat in our diet, but we need healthy fats and we need it in healthy ratios. So the typical American will consume too much of the omega-6 versus the omega-3. So let me just give you the basics here. Omega-3s and omega-6s, we need both of them, but we want a ratio that's either 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. Meaning we want omega-3s 1 and equal amounts of omega-6s, or maybe twice as many omega-6s, but not more than that. In the typical American diet, we have 20 or 30 times more to 1 of the omega-6s.
Can you remind us which ones?
I'm going to do that right now. Thank you for asking that question. So omega-3s are going to be in wild-caught salmon, not farm-raised, wild-caught salmon, sardines, wild sardines. It's going to be in nuts and seeds and grass-fed meats. That's where we're going to get our healthy omega-3s. Our omega-6s are coming in the form of pasta, bread, dairy, and conventional animals that are fed on corn rather than grass. That's where the information comes. So you can take a healthy animal and you feed it inflammatory grains, it's going to create an inflammatory animal that when you eat the flesh of that animal, you're now increasing inflammation. Okay? So that's the omega-3s and the omega-6s. So in the typical diet, we have 90% is omega-6s and 10% omega-3s in the conventional American diet right now.
So omega-6 isn't an oil?
It's an oil. It's a fat. It's a fat. Yeah, yeah. Corn oil would be an omega-6. Yeah. All the different vegetable oils like canola, soybean, those are omega-6s. Yeah.
Are there any vegetable oils that are omega-3?
That would be more of the olive oil, the coconut oil.
So there are.
Yeah.
Olive oil, coconut oil,
Yeah, those
avocado.
are the avocado oil. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. The nut oils.
Sunflower.
Sunflower oil can be okay, but you just have to watch it's a delicate oil, so it can go rancid. And then it takes a healthy fat, and when it goes rancid, it's not healthy anymore. That would be the same is true for fish oil. If it's rancid, it's not going to be healthy for you. So I'm going to teach you ways to learn where are good fish oils and bad fish oils. So the ideal diet is going to be equal amounts of omega-3s and omega-6s, or at the very most twice as many omega-6s than omega-3s, but not 20 or 30 times as much, which is what we're seeing here. Okay? All right, so do you need an oil change? I love that. Do you need an oil change, right? We all need to make sure we're doing that oil change. I want you to be aware, pretty much every restaurant you go to, pretty much every single one is going to be using unhealthy fats to cook your food in. Pretty much everyone. Yeah. So be careful when you're choosing your foods. You could choose a really healthy food that's then fried in a crappy oil. So you might want to choose it to be steamed or, cooked, baked, or roasted in a different way. All right? All right, so now so that's inflammatory and that's anti-inflammatory. Okay? And so we wanted to be doing everything we can to be anti-inflammatory to combat what our culture has designed as a very inflammatory culture. All right, and so whenever the inflammation goes up, you're going to have more pain. When the inflammation goes down, you're going to have less pain. So you could have neck pain that sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. Start to look at when is it worse and better. You're going to find that it's linked to inflammatory behavior when it gets worse and anti-inflammatory behavior when it gets better. Poor sleep will increase inflammation, right? These toxic foods are going to increase inflammation. Stress increases inflammation. Sedentariness increases inflammation. Okay, those are the categories that will increase inflammation. Good sleep drops inflammation, right? Meditation, prayer, downtime, having fun, relaxing, vacations, as long as they're not stressful, right, are going to be anti-inflammatory. And then eating healthy foods. All right. So what do we need to do to pick the right fish oil? So the best source of those omega-3s, the easiest source, if you're not going to get it right from your diet, the easiest source is going to be to take a fish oil supplement. And so how do you pick the right fish oil supplement? So first, there's a visual test. If it's a liquid, you want to look at it. It should be clear, not cloudy. If it's cloudy, chances are it may be tainted or toxic or rancid. Okay, so if it's a liquid form, then you want to be making sure it's clear. The bite test. So if it's in a capsule, if it's a liquid, you want to smell it. It'll have a fishy smell, but it shouldn't be a rancid, gross, fishy smell, right? when you smell rancidity, you'll know it, right? Like you know when milk is off, ooh, right? You'll know when it's off. So if you're getting a capsule of fish oil, bite into it and taste it. It's gonna taste fishy, but if it tastes rancid, don't use it. Because there are some cheap versions out there where they're trying to save money and it's rancid as it's going into the capsule. So the smell and the taste. All right, and then you want to see, is it stabilized with antioxidants? So they can come in different forms: vitamin E, rosemary, lemon oil, Aztec xanthan is another form. So you'll see the ones on our shelf, they have those stabilizers in them, and that's what protects them from the rancidity. And then you want to check the expiration date, because it does have an expiration to it that you want to pay attention to. All right. So, there's so many options that are out there that when there's too many options, people get confused. So let's just simplify this, right? If you need a high dose, it's easier to get more in through a liquid. So you can just think of it that way. If you have trouble swallowing capsules, just use the liquid, right? That's an easy one. The ones that'll last the longest are going to be the gel caps, the ones that are in the gel caps. And if you're sensitive to the taste, the Bonfire omega-3s have like a lemon taste. They're well known. Their reputation is that they're the best tasting fish oil capsules that you can get. And for infants and toddlers, because we definitely want to make sure that our kids are getting the fish oil they need, the liquid is going to be an easier way to get it into them. All right, I hope that helps just to simplify that. Which one should I get? These are great parameters to use. Okay, so now let's look at the life extension exercises. So this is a great exercise for the neck because it's actually working a lot with the upper back and getting the head up. So everybody stand up. All right, and so the acronym that we're going to be using is YWLT. You will love this. You will love this. So you're going to go about 20 seconds in each position, and you want to do one round of this for every 2 hours that you're sitting. Okay, so the first one is you want to make a Y. Okay, now that Y, my hands are up next to my ears, right? So it's going to be some work. So for some people, when they start out, they're here. That's the best they can do. You want to work at getting it right up to your ears. That's your Y. Okay, so about 20 seconds there. Usually it's about a couple of breaths in and out is going to be about 20 seconds, right? Then the W. You want to put your elbows into your back pockets. Try to put those elbows right into your back pockets. Push them right in there. A little bit deeper into the pockets, right? That's the W. Next is the L. All right, now with this one, you want to look straight ahead at the horizon, and you want to wiggle your fingers, and you don't want to see them. So don't want to see them in your peripheral vision, right? So you want them wide open. At first, it's going to be comfortable to be about here. That's not what this exercise. You're not doing the exercise if you're here. So you want it back like that, and then the T, and it's the same thing. And you want to push those fingers out towards the horizon. Push them out away from your body. And you don't want to see them, okay? You will love this. So that's simple. You're just going to do 20 seconds in each posture. And every 2 hours that you're sitting, you want to do this exercise, okay? How many people know others that would benefit from this exercise? All your coworkers, right? So you want to teach this to them, right? It will change the trajectory that they're on, right? Because what trajectory are they on if they just keep doing this, sniffing the monitor and staying on the devices, right? Okay, how many people have kids that are on devices? They need to learn this, right? You need to get them doing this, okay? All right, excellent. You may have a seat. So, how do we know if we're subluxated? There are objective criteria that we use. So, the instrumentation, the scanning technology that we use, that the astronauts use to tell them about their health, we're going to scan that neck, and we're going to find out about the nerve supply to the muscles, the nerve supply to the organs. If there's disturbance there, it's an indication that there's subluxation there. Motion palpation, we're going to feel the motion of the joint. Is that joint moving freely at every single level? We check every single joint to check that. And then we're just going to feel it statically. Is it in alignment or not? How's the motion, and where is it sitting when it's at rest? If it's sitting in a skewed position, that's an indication of subluxation. Visualization is looking at posture. So we're going to do a posture analysis. So aren't we going to look at somebody's posture and see, are they just defaulting to this, thinking that they're upright, thinking that they got good posture, and actually they're like that, right? They need to know. And I need to know because I need to monitor it, because over time, what are we going to do? We're going to retest that. We want to see that changing. If they're not doing their You Will Love This exercise, and they're not doing their sleep molding exercise, we're going to see it as we measure it, right? We're going to measure what matters. X-ray would be another tool that we could use because it's going to zero right in and show us, is there degenerative change there or not? My hands tell me a lot about that. So that's one of the feedback that I'm going to use is, does it feel rusty in there, right? And can I actually feel bumps on the bones where the degenerative change has already started? Now, I also will be measuring tone of the nervous system. As I said, tone is important. Is there tension in the nervous system or ease? So when I'm playing with your feet, I'm measuring the tone of your nervous system. And don't I get excited? Like you hear me say, awesome, ooh, what a nice change, right? And all I'm doing is playing with your feet. It's because I'm measuring, I'm seeing that tone drop into ease in your body. And what do you think? Is a nervous system that's in stress or an ease going to be better able to communicate the messages back and forth? One at ease, that's right. So when you leave the office, I want to make sure you're leaving in that state of ease. Now I know you're going to go out there. You're going to be bombarded with all the things that increase stress, right? So I'm most excited when you get on the table and I haven't done anything and I'm finding more ease than the beginning of the last adjustment. So I'm going to be watching over time. It's a process, and I know where are we today and where I want to be in the next visits and where we were on the last visit. So that's why the rhythm is so important, so I can keep this process going. All right. And so, again, those are the ways that we correct the subluxations and breaking the bad habits, adding the specific exercises, and the chiropractic adjustments. So I want you to just think right now, because those of you that are here that are under care, right? What's the thing that you can do better at now? Like I've taught you a lot of things. What's the thing you can do better at that's going to move you in the direction you want to go in? So when you think of the bad habits, it's about how you eat, how you move, and how you think, right? Are you eating like the anti-inflammatory diet, right? Do you have the fish oil going? Is it in the right ratios? In your what are the fats in your diet? Are they the healthy ones or the unhealthy ones? Can you make a change in the right direction there? How you think? Are you stressed out? Do you need to be doing more of your tapping or meditating, right? How you move? Are you doing your spinal exercises? Are you even just moving your neck through ranges of motion just to keep that motion going, right? Are you sedentary? Do you need to start exercising a little bit more? Maybe doing some yoga or exercise of some sort. Then the specific exercises. Are you doing the sleep molding exercises? Are you going to incorporate the life extension exercises, they're called? You will love this. And then are you staying right on track with the rhythm of your adjustments? And are we getting those reevals in so we can measure that progress? And the reevals give us the feedback of what do you need to put a little bit more energy into as we move along, right? So that's how you know if you're subluxated, is by measuring all these things. Now, how many people that you know that maybe need to get their spines checked and they say to you, I feel fine, right? Do you notice that all of these criteria, none of them are about how you feel. They're all measuring that 90% of the nervous system that is not about what you feel, right? So think about the people you know that are commenting about, oh, I've got this neck pain, or the headaches, or the arm stuff going on, right? And they may be minimizing it. And so you want to do everything you can to help them to change the trajectory they're heading in, because we know what trajectory it's going to be. And if they don't know what's happening in their nervous system, then they don't have enough information to make the best decisions for themselves. So share this with them. And if you know somebody, we actually have these coupons here, these certificates. So I'm going to just, you can each take one and pass it around. If you have a couple people in mind, you can take a couple. And what that's going to do is anybody that you know, they can come in and get this entire exam. Think about this exam and the value of this exam, right? If you were to go, like, how much do exams and testing cost in the medical arena, right? Thousands of dollars for that first assessment. And we can do this, it's about $210 for us to do all of this assessment, right? And with those coupons, it's gonna cap it at 47 for them, right? So that's a no-brainer right there. And yet, you'll know, you're gonna meet people and they're gonna say, yeah, now's not a good time. I'm kind of busy. Oh, school's about to start, maybe in the fall I'll be ready, right? And it's like the person that is saying, I feel good, and their heart is not doing so well, right? And they feel okay, right? So it's the same thing. Procrastination is the thief of health. If I think of the obstacles that I have to, that I come up against when I'm talking with people about getting their spines checked, there's two main obstacles. One is, what does it cost? So we've just handled that, right? And the other one is procrastination. Those are the things. Now's not a good time. And every time that I hear that, what am I thinking? Oh, they keep moving in that direction, right? Yeah, exactly. So help me with my mission and share this information with other folks. And we're going to now round up. We're going to finish up our recording. But if there's any other questions that people have, you can just ask me personally. So thank you so much for your time and attention. And remember, next month we're covering headaches on the 17th. And join us for that. All right. Thanks so much, everybody.